Thanks, Yasmina, for introducing me. My name is Christopher Schmitt, as she said. I'm Teleject on the Twitters. Feel free to follow me there. I try to be funny, but there's no guarantees about that. I'm also the co-author of the HTML5 cookbook with local Austinite Kyle Simpson, and also the author of the Thesis cookbook, both by O'Reilly. And so I think today is the ebook of the day by O'Reilly too, for the HTML5 cookbook ebook version. So I picked that up for not sure how much the discount was for today. So, but so I got a little choppy. That was fixed with the restart of the window. Okay, awesome. Yeah, cool. I'll try to speak louder and enunciate as best as I can. So, with that, I just want to get started. We have about an hour to go, and we had a late start, but let me just dive into our presentation. So today I want to talk about adaptive images and responsive web design. And so first I want to talk about is just do a little thought experiment. And so this is a photo of the iPad 3. And so what the iPad 3 here is kind of represents is a really good kind of experiment. And so iPad 3 has a Retina display on it. And so what we want to do is try to find out the best way to deliver a website to that image, to that device. And so what way can we do that? Because we know that not every web-enabled device has Retina display capability. What can we do to do that? And so one of the first things that we can think of right now is to try to really just ask the browser. And because browsers are awesome devices, and they represent a big portion of the global economy. I think one mention of it means that the global economy is bigger than the whole gross national product of Spain, which is pretty big, which is about 1.5 trillion U.S. dollars. So, but the problem with even though browsers are awesome, they can't actually. They're not really great tools for saying who they are. So in the beginning, it was really great because Netscape would say in what's called a user agent string and say, hey, is to say, hey, I'm Mozilla, which is the code name for the browser back in the day. I'm 1.0, and we're on Windows 2.1, and so this is the browser. That's what we're doing. However, what happened next was kind of browser competition, like both browser wars came around. And if you remember back in the day, people would put little badges on a website and say, hey, if you want to view the site, you have to have IE, or if you want to view the site, try to use you have to use Netscape Navigator for that. So, and part of that was that people would then be trying to, and all the browsers would have different features, and so the browsers were trying to do would say, hey, just do what's called browser sniffing, and they try to use the agent string information gathered here to determine okay, you're Netscape Navigator, you're IE. And so what happens over time is that browsers that in order to be more compatible and get around all that issue would say that there are actually multiple browsers and one agent string. So you would have so this is the latest Safari, where basically we're Mozilla, which they're not really Mozilla, but we're also Apple WebKit. We're also kind of HTML, which we're sort of like Gecko, but we're also Safari in one agent string. And so it was really, really kind of hard. It's not really a great way of saying hey, I just want to see if you're Safari. It's kind of hard because everyone's going to be mentioning it. And so if you think about just the popular handful of browsers out there, it might be pretty easy to deal with this, but it's not really a great thing in terms of thinking about in terms of scope of all the browsers that are out there. And so it's not really a great thing to do with that. So, and also just a side note, just to think about that, is that there's actually for browsers that are kind of not as popular, but that there's actually like Opera, which is a great browser, but it doesn't have that popularity of other mainstream like Chrome or IE. they actually have positions where their job is officially a web opener, and they go to those companies and say, hey, your website will work just fine on a browser, but you just coded just wrong. Well, here, let me tell you how to make your website more open with that. And so you can see this sort of playing out with, like, again, with the vendor prefixes issues. So it's kind of like we're thinking. So we can't really just go up to a browser and say, hey, are you Retina capable? If I know you're Retina capable and I know what you're telling who you are, it's really kind of not the best way of doing that. And so what we need to do is not say ask who they are, but ask really what they can do, and that's kind of what falls into like what feature testing are. So in terms of like responsible design, we want to look at a few things for feature testing, and let's try to do that. And so one of the first things we want to do is maybe like take a look at for browser width. And so the browser width, we can actually do that pretty easily with JavaScript. Here's just like kind of like a script to determine the width and height of a browser, which deals with like kind of a big jumbled mess. But thankfully with jQuery, we can actually just go ahead and pull that out and do kind of cross-browser issues pretty easily. Then also if you just want to do with CSS, we can do that pretty easily too with that. So we can easily go through that. So, but however, the width only just gives us the dimension of the device or the browser window. It doesn't really talk about the actual device, what's actually inside the device. So while we can get the width and width of the device, we don't really talk about the display. Is it Retina or is it just a kind of a basic display? What version of it, of Retina, how many pixels is it? So it's not really a great way by itself to determine what is the browser capable of doing. And so we have to look at some other features out there that we can look. Maybe there's some other features we can look at. One is probably screen resolution. And so, for the last 20 years or so, seeing 2 PPI or points per inch has served us well. And so, it's been a really great ride. It's been awesome. And so, when Apple came out with 72 PPI, it was like sort of like this great easy transfer, easy to understand. 72 points per inch equals 72 pixels per inch. So it's a really great way to just easily transfer over. However, with Windows, when they work on their display, they actually changed it to be 96 PPI for Windows users. And the math is sort of like this, 72 points per inch, that's about 1/3, and they get 96 PPI. And the rationale behind them being a little different than the Mac operating system is because they found that smaller fonts were hard to read, so if we increase the PPI a little bit, we get a little crisper font at small distance, which is sort of small distance. It means like kind of like the distance between your head and to your desktop computer at the time. And so that's why they went with 96 PPI. And so, but everything has changed with that, with Retina display. And so Retina display, Retina is kind of a marketing term. And so what really kind of like the rule of thumb is for Retina, when you think about Retina, is that it shoots about 300 PPI at 12 inches from your eyes. And so you kind of hold your phone at a different distance sometimes from your face, then differently than from your tablet, and also from your laptop too. So different distances. And so here on this slide, and is kind of like at the top portion of the slide in the background are actually the kind of like little pixels, the LED display of a 3G iPhone. And then at the bottom is at the same distance iPhone 4. And so they're scaled to 78 micrometers. And so a micrometer is one unit. A micrometer is you put 1 million micrometers in a row will equal 1 meter. And so what you're looking at is how compact the iPhone 4S is in this Retina display. So you can put a lot of information visually into a Retina display than you can beforehand. So, so what happens when you have like a 72 PPI image or a PPI image is that it kind of like when you get take that same image and it actually gets more compact with the more information you get into it. So the screen gets smaller and smaller, the image gets smaller and smaller. But and so the images are going to be kind of different versus how you go about doing it. So, but so far it's been like we only have to deal with Apple's Retina displays in terms of what they offer. And so, however, Intel is actually coming out with a higher line of products down the road. And so they're actually going to be coming out with new Windows-based solutions for Retina displays in 2013. Actually, there's been rumors of more and more Apple products coming down the path. So, so it's been kind of crazy coming for images that are coming down the market. And for Retina displays, what it really boils down to, in order to make images fit onto right there, is that we're going to have. Whoops, I get my slides are kind of acting up there a little bit. Retina displays means that in order to put more information, more visual information into an image, it means that we have larger images, and that means larger file sizes. So it's going to be kind of hard to deal with that. So it's so it's dealing with screen resolution. So we have to deal with larger screen resolutions, or have to deal with larger images in order to fill up the space in order to have it, have our images right there. And so what happens with that is that we run right into the third issue is bandwidth. And so we have an issue with putting these large images into a normal experience right here. So it's going to kind of be hard to do that because not everyone is going to have a broadband connection on their tablet. Even with the iPad 3, you're still going to have to deal with a lot of issues with, like, if you're just surfing around with like a 3G connection, if you will, and go around. So they might not, even though their browser and their iPad can handle a high retina image display, it's not going to be the best way about doing it. So we need to determine how we can best determine like this is doing it as a speed test. And so, but if you think about speed tests, they can't really hinder the user experience. And the rationale behind that is that you actually have to like add more weight into your web page in order to do the test. And so I was actually talking about this with Kat Atkins, who works at Google, is like, testing for speed is on an internet connection is like stepping in front of a car to see how fast it is. And so the response was like, yeah, but Christopher, you only have to test it once, and then you know exactly how fast it is. However, you're run over, so that's kind of a collateral damage, I guess. And so, but because like basically, if you were to do a speed test, you have to send down an image in order to figure out how fast it is, or like just basically a big rapid file. And so the rapid file like that, that's one that's used in Foresight.js, which is kind of an adaptive image display fill or solution for that. Actually does do a speed image test, and it sends this big image that could be K just to see how fast you're doing. And so that's 50K on top of a potentially like 3G or small network, slow network, is just a lot of information. There's a lot of like contests out there, like for 5K or 10K web app contests. So you get that like build the functional websites or apps just on a little bit of information. And so to ask to put on more information, more file size weight on top of that, it's really hard to do. So, but the cool part, though, is that there's been some talk with browsers to basically let the browser talk to the server and client side in order to determine what the connection speed is. And so this talked about maybe being in WebKit, but it's actually in Android OS as of version, I think, 2.1 or 2.2, that if you have an Android device, it will actually tell you how fast the speed connection is. It'll tell you if it's on a 3G or it's a Wi-Fi network or how fast it is. And it's actually kind of geared to be dropped into Modernizer, which is a whole suite of feature detection tests. So for browsers from HTML5, that's the 3 test. So So I think, I'm not sure if this is dropped in Modernizer just yet, but yeah, so it's pretty good. But, however, so we looked at a few things from some feature detection. We looked at the size of the browser window, the width. We looked at the display. Is it Retina? Is it how big the image? Pixel density. How much is the pixel density? Is it? We also talked about speed. But the thing is, like, knowing just one thing doesn't tell you the whole picture, and knowing all three things doesn't give you the whole entire picture either. Because two bits of information doesn't give you the whole entire picture in terms of what the user is surfing. Because the server could be on a fast connection, but a really bad browser. I'm talking bad in terms of like sensitive PPI, but it also could be iPad with a high Retina display, but on a 3G or slower network. And so it's kind of hard to determine what is the best way to deliver an optimal experience to Retina, or not order to deliver the appropriate display to the user. And so one thing to think about is like, hey, maybe we don't need images whatsoever. Maybe we can just think of other solutions that we can do. And so let's just think about some workarounds that we can do. One of them is just a CSS trick. It's called but it's called background size auto, and I love this a lot. You can see this very basic example at the awesome fittextjs.com, and it's really kind of shown through. And I think fittext.js does one that is a small jQuery that's done by Dave Rupert, and it's a really great thing for responsive web design that it will squeeze and expand and resize text as a browser window resizes so it fits the actual width of the column that you put it in. So it's a really great typography solution for responsive web design. And but one of the cool things I liked about it, about the website that talks about it, is if you look in the arrow for which it's downloaded on GitHub, there's actually one image spread behind the background, and once you resize it, the arrow image scales down and up with it. And so it's a really great trick for scaling images appropriate. But that's really a great thing to think about. So, and then so just look at the code a bit real quick. So basically just a simple background, set the background image, and it said background size to 100%. So it will fill the whole entire parent element with that image. So that's just like a simple thing, nothing really too complex. Sadly, it's only, if you're talking about IE, it's only supported in IE 9 and higher. So, but it enjoys really robust support in other browsers. And so that's one thing to think about. Another thing to think about is SVG. And so I've been a big fan for SVG for a long, long time. I think I wrote about it in my first book like 12 years ago, and it's been a long time coming. And so now SVG enjoys really kind of out-of-the-box support in modern browsers, which is kind of awesome. I think that we should be talking about SVG for a long time. So, and SVG, so just took this example, is just took like a McDonald's vector logo, and one of the cool things is like you just set the width to percentage and you scale it, and it looks crisp and fine throughout the whole thing. It's sort of like, you don't have to deal with flash vectors anymore. You just put an image source equals file name by SVG, and it just works just great. And in fact, sometimes depending on how complex your image is, your image might be smaller at the SVG versus the pane. Okay, but this will be different if you have a very complex image altogether. However, again, just like the background auto trick, there is issues with IE 9 not being with IE 9 supporting SVG out of the box. So if you start to do with IE 8 or IE 7, it's still really a problem. But a cool thing is that I kind of worked on a little workaround, a little plot hole for it. So if you actually use HTML5 boilerplate, which is like kind of the recent version, has the kind of expanded conditional comments, which puts multiple less than IE 9 and less than IE 8 into the kind of conditional block at the top of the page. If we use that, we can pull off information for less than IE 9 and then use like a simple jQuery check to say, hey, do you have this in your page? If so, we'll just do if you're less than IE9, we'll just swap you out with a ping instead of using the SVG. And so it's really cool, really simple thing. I just whipped it together not too long ago, just so I could say, like, use SVG and not worry about backwards compatibility. So the downside is that you would have to have like two versions of the image, one SVG and one ping, but it works pretty good. So I like it. And also you can explore more with SVG. This whole like Raphael JavaScript library, which goes into a whole bunch more detail, a lot more than this. So that's pretty awesome. So another thing that we think about if we want to just avoid images altogether and just try to avoid the big headache of responsive design images is to think about font-based solutions. So there's been a lot of talk about this, to do with this stuff. And one of them is maybe just use Unicode. Maybe if you use the meta character set for Unicode, you can add common Unicode characters like the notes or icons for a cell phone, and you don't need a specific font version. You can just copy and paste them into your HTML. So, but the problem with that is that accessibility. Accessibility is a big issue because some screen readers won't read, will just read out the Unicode character set. Some screen readers will just they'll skip over it or do some kind of funky little thing with the Unicode characters built off, like kind of characters that you need to create it. So it's not really a great way for accessibility. That's mostly because the screen readers aren't up to par, I guess, with most with the modern browsers that can do Unicode characters. So you can do this, but there's some kind of caveat you want to make sure with Unicode characters. Another thing to think about with using a font solution is this kind of like, which was written up in dialog typography, was actually setting and being able to use the whole font library, a font family, and fonts. You think of a font family like Afghana or Times New Roman or like Gotham, which is a popular font. And there's so many widths weight to a font that some of them are really can be really well suited for a kind of responsive display. So if you have like a really large monitor display that you're designing for, you're going to have a really heavyweight font. But then when you get to a mobile display, you can actually pick like the skinnier version of the font family for it to be displayed in the design. However, this also has some caveats too, is that font families and font files in general are very heavy to download. They're really large file size, and so I was having kind of like sweat and palpitations about 50K speed test. When we get into downloading not just one font family, but several versions of the font family on various different devices, depending on the width of the browser, you're increasing a lot of font sizes all over together. So it's really hard to do that. So let's take a quick second for the questions. Okay. Cool. All right. And so another thing to think about is just using icons. Again, we're trying to just get away with get away from using images as font, images like things and JPEG. Another way to do is do icon fonts. And they're really, Christopher really loves them a lot. And so he has a whole way of series of blog posts about using fonts as icon fonts. And so you can actually, and if you use the fonts, icon fonts or dingbat fonts, in your display, you can actually use all the CSS3 properties that are out there to render them. You talk about text shadow, color fonts. You can do masking on them sometimes, depending on the Safari browser. So it's really, you can do a lot of cool things with them. However, there's, again, some kind of accessibility issues, and so you want to be sure to actually code them correctly. And so you want to make sure to do that. Because some font icons, if you just do like the letter C and use to expand your font family onto the font, they'll actually the screen reader will just read C and not actually what it's supposed to mean at all. And so you want to make sure you code it correctly. And one way of doing that is to use content generation via CSS and say, hey, for any content that's generated outside the span before the span, use this font family and pull in the information that's in this HTML attribute. So that way we can just use that instead. So it's a really cool cool trick of trying to make use icon fonts, get the flexibility of design that we get from CSS3, but still make it accessible for people with screen readers. So it's really awesome. Another cool font that just recently came out is called a font called Symbol Set. I'm putting it into the group chat right here. And it's really cool that you actually type out the whole entire word that the font represents, and it's pretty sweet. So they can actually type out home or cart, and once you type out the word cart, there actually be a new font for the letters. You actually just the font base will actually create a whole icon for cart, and so basically you just use the word cart, and then the font symbol will show up in the place. So it's a really cool thing altogether. So it's really nice. And so one thing that's really being on the same vein as using icon fonts is GitHub has been using a really great have redone their whole website with their own custom fonts. It's called of course Font Awesome. I don't know what else, or Fort Awesome. So I think it's Font Awesome at Fort Awesome. So I'm not sure. The naming stands for all the cool stuff that they do. Kind of confuses me sometimes. So, but I put a link into the chat room for it. And so what they've done is actually go to GitHub. They swapped out other icons for would be to just they swapped out other icons for and replace them with type-based icons. And so it's now flexible and responsive, and they don't have to worry about resolution. They don't worry about resolution, and they don't worry about retina issues and all together like that. So it's really a great kind of solution for them. But not everyone can afford to create their own custom, awesome-looking icon fonts that suits their business model or business needs. And so, but the cool part is that they actually released their own version they can use for commercial or whatever needs. So you don't have to worry about that. But also, Symbol Set I think is really kind of affordable if you want to use that solution too and make it very easy and accessible. But having said all that stuff, I think there's lots of great ways that we can look at in terms of like kind of avoiding the whole raster image issues with PNGs and JPEGs and all that sort of that by using all these workarounds and embracing those. But sometimes you really need a photo. Sometimes photo is content, and photo needs to be associated with that. One example that comes to my mind is like CNN. So like you have CNN.com, there's always like a photo associated with the news story, or like if you have a blog post, you always get better traction with a photo with your blog post. So sometimes you need photo to go with the content. So you really want to get that kind of old school thing. So that's pretty sweet. So we really want that kind of old school mentality. So one way to do it is kind of do a server side kind of solution, and one that you have to do is like use the HT access and actually modify it. And basically what I do is to kind of like this is a solution that Filament Group used when they were working on I believe they worked on the Boston Group, Boston Globe, sorry, Boston Group, Filament Group is a Boston Group now, Boston Globe website, and so they actually have a little back-end solution where they're actually looking for information from the server in order to deliver the right image at the right time to the server. And so what they do is like for the script, they modify the rewrite engine a little bit, roll it a little bit to the script, they have their own JavaScript in there, and they actually put more information into the actual image source, so simple content. So they put like kind of a mobile-first approach to their web pages, where mobile-first, if you haven't heard about it, it's basically just deliver basic bare bones website, and then eventually add on via Ajax and other solutions, other technologies onto the content out there. So you do running small JPEG and then full or larger high-res version of the website. But the problem with that is that the server has no way of knowing what the resolution the client's device is, so it can't send the appropriately sized images. So it's kind of like cheating a little bit. So we're kind of saying like, we're going to guess that you're not a mobile device. We're going to give you like high-res version of it. So it's like either or that you're going to get. You can't really tell what it is. So one workaround with that is called adaptive-images.com. So this is kind of a really server-side-based solution, and actually uses the graphics GD library in there to make it work. And so it's a combination of HTAccess, JavaScript, PHP5, and the library, and then the image tag. So it's a lot of overhead just for one image. And if you just think about the whole like boom of the first wave of the internet, images was so important to it that it seems kind of like, wow, we're doing a lot of work to kind of shoehorn in this right solution, the right image, and so that. So it's pretty crazy. So and it's not my favorite one because I know there's so many bloggers out there that use like WordPress. I know there's like a WordPress that comes with it that can possibly be used, but I feel like there's so many bloggers out there that, and so many people just, trust in their CMS that a solution like this just isn't possible just based off these technology requirements. So it's not really the best thing. And so a while back, just a number of people, myself included, tried to hammer out some sort of solution and with the HTML5 working group and try to come up with a really good way of trying to solve this problem. And so definitely members of the Summit group were there. Jason Grigsby was there. Pretty much like who's who of web nerds there. I'm not sure why I was there, but and so we hammered out and came up with a kind of a solution based off of kind of the history or like the new history of video. If you like media queries in HTML, you can actually put media queries into HTML and deliver the right video to the right browser. And so the thing was that we just kind of carry that over with a new element called picture, and that we could put that in there. And so this is actually a polyfill based off this idea was written by Scott Joel, if I won't say his name right. And so he actually came up with a patch for a polyfill that we can actually use and put it out there. And so I'm not really a big fan of it personally myself, but I was like, hey, whatever works, I am good to go with that. So, but my problem with it was that the image element is just really awesome because it's like I believe it's the only element that it doesn't really care what file type you give it. It can be a JPEG, GIF, PNG, SVG now, and it'll just say, like, hey, I'll just thank you for telling me where the file is. I'll just go render it if I can, and it'll be on its way. Whereas video, it says like you have to give multiple options. You just can't do like you can't just do MOV, you can't just do MPEG, whatever. And I understand it has to do with a whole lot of browser war issues and codec issues, licensing issues, or whatnot. However, the image, I think it's just a really elegant solution, and we shouldn't borrow bad solutions in order to fix modern day problems. So would be my best thing. And so all these people came up with it, but having said that, I'm like, hey, picture, if that works, I'm down with that. And so the responsive image community at the W3C came together. They went to the HTML5 folks and say, hey, what's up? And they actually said, hey, that's really cool. However, let's just do this instead. And so it's a source set. And so this is actually in the kind of a draft mode for HTML5. And so what we have here is like image alt, put your alt text in there always, source banner.jpg. And so we put source set equals, you put your high definition image in there and say, hey, this is for Retina banner phone JPEG. This is for machines that are 100 pixels wide. If you want to do a high-res version for displays that are 100 pixels wide, you can just do this one instead. And so basically you're kind of like loading all this information into an attribute per image, which I totally appreciate that approach more than having people write multiple lines that the picture element does. However, this was kind of not very well received in the community because there's still a lot of issues. One being that the 100 width is only set in pixels. You can't use EMs if you want to. You can use percentages, and so it's kind of not forward thinking that much. So it's kind of issues with that, and also so it's not really the best thing to do with that. So but another thing to think about is that there's also WebKit and Nightly actually they come up with a new solution, and it's called image-set. So I'm going to put that in my group chat if I can find group chat. Oh, there it is. Cool. And so yeah, can put that in there. So and uses kind of a different approach to it. And this is kind of in the spirit of using CSS to solve a problem, a design problem, and so I kind of like that. However, it's kind of Apple engineers just went and did their own thing and put it in there. So since there's a big difference between writing a spec and having a browser implement it, and usually the browser that implements something has a better chance of succeeding than the spec. People respect. And my example with that is more in terms of CSS animation. So like one day Apple just said, hey, if you want animations, here's our basic initial spec that we're working towards. And then all of a sudden, W3C CSS group has started writing animation spec module. So now we have CSS3 animations in our browser. So and so we might, so this might be a solution that we use down the road where we actually set what type of high-res images in the actual CSS with the special property set. And also I have an issue with too, I think it's something to be hammered out for, is like when we have multiple images in a background, how does that handle it? So a lot of issues that need to be addressed, but that's just one way. But I'm also not a really big fan of HTML and JavaScript solving all the problems. But having said that, I actually have a JavaScript solution kind of applied in its place. And so as I said, I'm not a big fan of picture because I'm not really a big fan of having more than one image element. If I can, I want to use that one image element. I sort of like the source set it a little bit better than pictures because I feel like people aren't going to be changing their ways in coding. And another example of that is, the big HTML. People actually coded with HTML. I was one of you guys and told the dad about that. Is that Opera did a whole test of 100,000 websites to see if they're actually valid. They actually used valid markup code, and less than 5% of the websites they looked at, of hundreds of thousands of web pages and websites, were actually valid. And so if you think about that, asking people in a real reality where people validate their sites like less than 5% of the time, if you do, great, often you should always validate websites. But in reality, when people have a bunch of other things on their plate besides the website, and asking them to do multiple versions of a picture element, it's not the best thing to go about doing it. So with my solution, or my apply fill, was that we just try to make it as drop dead easy as we can to forget it. And so we downloaded the I call it high source, which is if you're old school, kind of plays off the low source attribute from old days. And so you just set which image you want to use data to determine which image that you want to use. If you want twice the size, half the size, you want to do mobile first, you can totally do it that way. And then and then just set it, forget it, and then you're done. So and it's pretty awesome because all the information. So we use a data attribute in HTML5, pretty sweet. And what happens in JavaScript is that it actually does a whole series of checks. So if you remember in the beginning, we talked about what type of industry we look for instead of using browser sniffing, doing a speech test. So what we do is do a native speed test on mobile first. We actually use that kind of approach for modernizers, or how we talk about modernizers, like, hey, if you could tell us how fast you are, like in the Android 2.2 operating system, that's great. Then we ask, hey, can you tell us what your your device pixel ratio is? If not, great, we'll just work on that. Again, And if we have to, we'll use we'll force a speed test on you. If we have to, I cringe every time we have to do that, but I feel like compromise to do that. And so less than 4G means, so if we do a speed test and we find out that, or the browser tells us that less than 4G means we'll just leave mobile images in place. If it's between 4G and high Ethernet speed, we'll just give you a regular desktop image. But if you tell us your fast speed and your high density display, we'll swap in the Retina images for you. So, and then it's like pretty awesome, I think, to go. So I think it's pretty sweet. And so it's really free to use if you want to use it. But the cool thing is that we actually shoehorn two solutions into it. And one is based off the fact that, CSS is core. I feel like this Retina display issue, the adaptive images, is a design problem. It's not really a problem that can be solved with HTML and JavaScript per se, even though I feel like CSS should play a part in it. Sometimes I feel like with the community at large, like I feel like JavaScript is such a powerful tool that we use it for everything. And I feel like it's sort of like if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I feel like that's impressive. So I want to make the solution kind of more flexible. And since we use CSS for media queries, that we can actually kind of use media queries in a way to solve the problem. And so the way this solution, alternative one, that's part of PySource solution, is that we go back to a single pixel GIF solution, and we actually use a single pixel GIF as a window. And so we can stretch and expand this window depending on the display that we have. So if it's a mobile version, we can put in a small image. If it's a desktop version, we can put in a desktop version. If it's a high Retina version, we put in a high Retina display with it. And so what we do is just we put inline in the small single pixel GIF, and then if we can use it, we don't actually have to download an extra GIF. We'll just say, hey, here's a data source, little bits and pieces of a base 64 image. So this is what transparent GIF 1 pixel by 1 pixel looks like in code. And so we'll just use that. So having to force someone to download a single pixel GIF. But if they don't have it, we can just put that into the local directory and have it right there. And so that way it's a really great solution. And we just allow the people to put in their CSS based off their media queries. Media queries. Yeah. So you actually go and use background images with CSS media queries to determine which image goes with which one. And so, but you can still use leave the mobile first version in the image source attributes. And so what happens is we just swap out that image, that file with the transparent single pixel GIF, and so then we have the right image show through. And so it's a really kind of ingenious solution. Not really, but it's kind of old school looking back, trying to solve a problem today. So not so I think it's kind of cool, kind of clever a little bit, but not the best one. So, but two approaches, one simple solution. I love it to death. But this is mine. But there's a whole bunch of other solutions they can look at. And so actually with Chris Coyer, CSS tricks to come up with and document a whole bunch of RWD image solutions for responsive images. And so I actually put this link into the chat room, which is it's css-tricks.com/which responsive images solution should you use. And so I haven't looked at it in a bit, but I remember last time I looked at it, we had over 24 solutions, and we're looking at future solutions that are coming down the path. And so it's a really great way. It tells you hey, does the solution need a server backend solution? Does the solution need JavaScript? Does it need jQuery? Is it allow you for art direction, which is cropping? It has the right sizing on the page. So if you have a big image, you may want to crop it a little differently than you would if you had a mobile device. So it's a really great tool to help you out with doing that. So I'm a big fan of my solution, but I granted I know there's other people with solutions and stuff. So basically that's kind of where we are right now with dealing with responsive design as it relates to adaptive images. I think we're kind of just waiting around the community for the shoe to drop, and it might be the fact that Safari browser engineers are first to market, because I know Apple is the one pushing the Retina display, so they're very keen on having a solution that doesn't require extra markup in their pages and trying to solve that issue. So, however, there's something else that we could think about. Another possible solution is that maybe we need something new. We need something new all for that. So, is that we need a simple design for users. We need a simple design solution for users. We need and maybe something that deals with the browser and server handshake, that they tell each other better about their size, the speed, and the and the Retina capabilities of the page. And so, and something that maybe not just a new image, but maybe something like an image locker, and so that we can actually save an image that we're working on, a high-res, almost like a billboard-sized image, maybe, and through Photoshop, through Illustrator, through Artwork, through or whatever your favorite digital imaging tool is, and have it save various image formats and sizes with resolutions into one major file format. And so instead of having us to export and various other images, we just have one image hold all these images in there. Granted, it's going to be a large image file, but it would just be, but this browser would just pick out the appropriate image from this locker and wouldn't download the whole entire image for it. And this is actually built today. Actually, JPEG 2000 spec has it in it. It can actually do this. There's also an image format back in the day called FlashPix, which isn't really popular, but it was worked with Microsoft and Kodak, I think about 7 years ago. So it's actually out there, and I think people were kind of forward thinking about this being an issue going forward. So especially when you think about media being, all the place from print to web and everywhere in between. So hopefully we'll get a new image format. Maybe we'll call it responsive ping or something like that, but hopefully we'll get there soon. So, and I think that would be like the ideal solution, and hopefully we wouldn't have to deal with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript workarounds to sort of pull it off. So hopefully today helps you out a little bit, give you some more information about that. So thank you very much. I just want to say, you can find me at the Non-Breaking Space podcast, where we interview cool people with my co-host, Dave McFarland, who's a great smart cookie. Also, I help organize online conferences. We're doing Responsive Web Design Summits on August 28th with some cool people, and then also we're doing UX Web Summit on the 26th September with some really cool people. So I think that's a little discount code there if you want. So with that, I think I have some time for some questions. People have any. So,
thank you, Christopher. We do actually have several questions that have come in. Okay. So, folks, we'll take questions as many as we have time for. If we just have a few minutes left here, let's take a look here. We'll take them in the order they came in. We have a question from Chris. Chris says, I'm trying to design an activity stream homepage, and it currently fits the width of a standard-sized website like LinkedIn, Facebook. But I want the main part of the activity stream to expand and fill up the space on my big screen Mac, like Pinterest. Can you offer tips on how to do that?
Yeah, I would definitely pick up Ethan Marcotte's Responsive Web Design book on how to do that. And so look into just mini queries. And so I think you have to design for various breakpoints and column widths. And the Responsive Web Design is a series of 3 approaches to web design. And so, of course, I can't really name all of them off the top of my head right now because I'm scattered. But yeah, so you want to do like percentage-based fluid layouts, responsive kind of typography, and with that stuff, and also kind of big design for various breakpoints. And so I think just going to the source, like read his article on listapart.com would be a good starting point. And there's tons of articles out there on how to do that. And also I look into Ben Callahan, who's actually going to be at the Responsible Web Design Summit next month, he's actually going to have a whole series of sessions dedicated to retrofitting websites to responsible design. So when you don't have the luxury of building from scratch, it would be pretty good. But it sounds like you are like starting from scratch right now and able to do it. So I was just looking to those basic methods and how to break it apart. And so, but yeah, it's pretty cool. So thank you, Chris. Question. So,
great, thanks. See, our next one is from Michael. Are you able to see these at all, Chris?
Yeah, let me see. I got Mike. Let's see. Is there a server process Java node that can automatically generate multiple resolutions versions of the image? Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah, Nina? That's right.
Exactly. Yep, that's the next one.
Okay, awesome. Sweet. So I talked about, I think it's adaptive-images.com, and so that is it uses PHP and stuff like that. I think you're asking for Java node. I don't really know off the top of my head for Java node. Maybe someone in the chat room can help out with that solution. I just don't know if a Java node kind of solution is out there. I do know that maybe there's one for I know it's like PHP has one open source, so I don't know if there's anyone like that. So, but yeah, so let's see. Next question, Adam. I saw you did my screen speed test. Has the same speed test. Yeah, Adam, that's it's a compromise that I had to make because I'm really not a big fan of it. I just wanted to show you that when I talked about it, that it's not really the ideal solution that we can go forward, but it's a compromise I was willing to make because I wanted to get we can do mobile-friendly image, and we can do a desktop and to Retina display images. So it's like either or, like one mobile or the other images. And so I wanted to make sure to determine the speed test to see if I can actually get the faster connection to be able to get to a Retina, to qualify that to get to a Retina. So it's a kind of a issue, like just compromise I was willing to make, and then also wanted to. But we don't do the speed test if you're running an Android device with the OS, and so I'm hoping that that kind of test is able to be picked up by Mobile Safari, which there were some rumors a couple months ago that they would actually put that into the Mobile Safari. So I'm hoping they do that. But I'm hoping in the future that we don't have to do that in the future. James has a question. Do you think that we're basically going back to print area style image creation production? For example, a print-based adage is you create source brand imagery that has to be raster in a very large format and sizes nowadays. I would love that in a way that, like, I wrapped up talk with a kind of a call for a new kind of responsive image format, and I wouldn't mind if that format was used for other industries like for print and stuff like that. So it doesn't have to sort of like how PDFs were kind of designed to replace the web, but they actually kind of fell back into being these portable documents now, like these everyone has PDFs now. So for words. So, but I think it's definitely along those same lines where I would love to have one image format and just be able to share it across different medium or media order to do that. So it's really I would love to have that going forward. But the kind of flip side, if you will, is to maybe we don't need images, and so maybe we can use kind of like those techniques I talked earlier about using icon fonts, using type instead of different font family sizes in order to do that kind of solution. So it's kind of like maybe we can do that. So, but that's a really good question, James. So really awesome. So let's see, are there any other questions? Where can I find documentation on the WebKit for adaptive images? I haven't found any, James. I haven't found any documentation on it. There is, if you go to the link from that's in the W3 mailing list, I'll just put it back in the chat room here. They'll talk about the kind of the structure that they're putting into WebKit nightly, and so in order how to play their Retina. I know when the Retina iPhone came out, maybe the Retina iPad came out too, but I think it was longer than that, they would actually use, they stack images, like the actual image elements into the HTML. So, and they use JavaScript in order to like deliver the right fonts and hide the images. And so it was really kind of a nasty piece of, those were kind of nasty pieces of work actually, but it's something that you have to do. So, I think, are there any questions I see?
I'm not seeing any additional questions come in. We did have somebody, let's take a look here, in the group chat saying, hi, can you repost or send the links for the Pinterest style of responsive web design you mentioned?
Okay. I'll put that in the chat room.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Cool. And so I'll hang around the chat room later for a little bit longer if anyone has any more questions, but I think that's about it. So.
Great. All right. With that then, folks, we're going to say a really big thank you to Christopher for an outstanding webcast today. Folks that attended, we thank you for attending. I know many of you mentioned that the audio wasn't as crisp and clear as it could have been for you, so we do apologize for that. We do want to let you know we did record today's webcast. We will have a cleaned up archive within about 48 hours, so keep an eye out on your email for that. Watching that should be a lot better for you, and you can really get all the good information that Christopher wanted you to have today. Again, we'd also like to let you know Christopher's book is the O'Reilly Deal of the Day. We pushed out some codes to you all in the group chat there. If you didn't open your group chat, please do open it so you can see that. O'Reilly Deal of the Day, or visit O'Reilly.com. You can't miss it. It's right there. If you like what you heard today, there's a lot more in that book, so we encourage you to take a look at it. Again, thank you, Christopher. Thank you, everyone. This will conclude today's webcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.